Yo, I'm curious. How might you benefit from shifting, changing, or just experiencing transformative energy? Hey, welcome back. That was a little too much. Actually, even a little too much for me. Welcome back to Prolific Shifts Season 3, Episode 1. We're calling it Season 3 because the last one was Season 2, Episode 14, and that was back in May. So clearly, a couple seasons have changed and shifted, and I've been out here really just trying to clarify what this space is and means for me, and also trying to be sure that whatever I'm offering here is not coming from a place of raggedy. And I was raggedy for a little bit, so didn't want to offer things to folks from that space. And so here we are, starting with a new season and clarity, I would say. So I've been thinking a lot about Prolific Shifts, the fellowship cohort space, which is really going to be designed to support Black educators and leaders in professional growth and development, professional and personal growth and development. And I see that space is needed because in the world of education as it is today, I think we're still largely, when people think of leadership and leadership decisions or pedagogy, I think we're still largely functioning in a way that centers whiteness and white experiences or comparisons to whiteness. Boom. So we don't have the space as leaders to think about what it means to lead, coming from the wisdoms that we have learned, or coming from places that haven't written a book but might have something that's really working or could really work for what an educational environment is going through right now. So that space is its own space, and it's like really getting to see our reflections in each other and support each other in our growth and development. And then when I think of the way I want, or why I started doing this, or the way I wanted this space to function, this is the part that actually, I think what I hope it does is it honors the universal personal and professional development needs of anyone. You don't have to be in a profession to ask yourself these questions. You don't have to have gotten a degree. You don't have to have done anything except been human and lived. And that's like to me, the highest degree. The folks who have been living and moving and being resilient, for lack of a better term. All of that is experience. And so what I hope, what I think I've clarified is that in this space, I hope actually that this continues to be a space where I refine what it feels like to not tell people what to do, but to make an offering that someone might benefit from wherever they are. So this week's question is, how might you benefit from shifting, changing, or experiencing transformative energy? And I could easily, right, like super easily have turned that into a statement that says, you need to take some time and change and shift your life. You need transformation. We on it. And that's not me. Could be me, but that's not me, or that's not how I want to be. And so what I hope that this space offers to the world, to whoever decides to watch these videos, is just a posture of curiosity. When I think of what's at the root of this for me, or my interest even in prolific shifts, or in personal and professional growth and development spaces for Black educators, it's wanting to come from a place of like, how can we see this in our own worlds? How can we get curious about our own lives, and not in comparison to others, but just in learning about ourselves? And so the question for today, how might you benefit from shifting, changing, or experiencing transformative energy? I hope that pretty much anyone, even if it's kind of hard to be imaginative in that way, I hope that anyone could find a way to answer this question from wherever you are in life and from whatever your needs are. And I hope that if this isn't a question that your life has set you up to be able to imagine, that getting it in your head does open up something and start to create more curiosity in you about your life and your movement in it. Originally, the question I was going to come with here was, what is your work? And I didn't love that for a number of reasons. First, I'm really trying to think about what life looks like when it's not centered around work. And that's been a few years of intention and focus for me. But at the end of the day, like, what is your work? what I meant for it to be was like, what is the thing? What's the thing that you have to do? But that felt like a closeted command, like do some work. And so this is more aligned with the spirit of what I was thinking about. And that is, how can we acknowledge that we are participants in our own lives? That there are things that happen to us for sure. There are things that happen for us for sure. But what are the things that we do, or that we can do, or that we can think, that remind us of the power that we hold, and remind us that we, in the systems world, you can think about where power is and where power isn't, but we have power somewhere. How can we create power, access power, um, in our own lives, or over our own thoughts, or anything like that? And it's possible that I'm not saying the right thing or saying it the right way. And I hope that you know where my heart is, and forgive any areas and tell me about them too, about how you experience something that I've said. But I'm just thinking about, like, how can we think about the ways that we participate in our lives, in our decisions, and in our outcomes? So that's the spirit of this question. And it's also coming from, interestingly enough, there was something I saw on Instagram, and it was a woman who said that she goes on Reddit to ask questions that she really needs answers to. But she discovered early on that if she just asked the question, people weren't likely to respond. So what she did instead was she would pose the question and then log into a different account and put a wrong answer in there, because she discovered that people are quick to correct but slow to help. And I started thinking about how that functions in this world of social media, where there's a lot of people telling you what to do, when and where, and what you can do or what you should be doing. And I wondered what it would look like, or what it would take to move from the place of like being interested, or more eager to correct than eager to help. And when I think about stuff like this, I think sometimes we can see someone's life struggling, right? Like we can see them in the struggle. And the thing that we do, instead of actually holding space, I would say, is we sit and tell, well, you should do this. You should try this. Have you tried that? What about this? Why can't you just do blank? And that's, I think sometimes that's coming from a good place too, but that's that correction. And so what does it look like to help? For me, when I think about what I have the capacity to do to help, in some cases, like this is how it functions for me. Like this is work. It helps me. And I hope that creating the habits of questioning ultimately is a help or a service to others in different situations. So that's where we're starting with this. And so really getting into this, like, how might you benefit from shifting, changing, or experiencing transformative energy? I want to take it back a little bit to a little bit of my upbringing as an offering for how you might think about this for yourself. So when I think about this question for myself, dang, my tea is gone. When I think about this question for myself, I think a lot about where my pain points are. So there's this language in human-centered design that asks you to think about pain points and gain points of users. When I think about, if I apply that to my own life, and I think about what my pain points are, I think about, okay, where does it feel good and where does it hurt, essentially? And that's not, and those are fleeting, but like for any given moment, where does it feel good and where does it hurt, and what can I learn from those feelings and experiences about myself and about my needs? So the things that I've actively tried to do for the past few years is not overwork. Not been very successful in some ways, but in other ways have. So I think I said in one of these videos, I really worked to reframe, recenter the different components of my world so that work wasn't the centerpiece, and wasn't the defining aspect of my identity. And for me, I moved that to wellness. And part of that, it did for me take being unwell to figure out the need to center wellness. But what I hope for other aspects of my life is that I don't wait until I'm not well to be thinking about what that feels like. I think we have a lot of signs earlier than we ever acknowledge. Because I don't think I'll speak for myself. I don't always take the time to sit and think about what a feeling is or means, and that's something that I've really been aiming to do in these past couple of years. So when I think of how I can benefit from experiencing transformative energy, for example, I like the idea of continuing to learn for myself what daily acts of freedom can look and feel like. There's some ways of thinking about freedom that are dependent on the destruction of white supremacist culture. And if that happened, like, fine and good. It's not happening tomorrow. It's not happening today. So for me, I think about how can I participate in my life, or or organize my life in a way that I engage daily acts of freedom based on what freedom means to and for me. And for me, the biggest thing about that, or the biggest thing that's transformative about that, is thinking about how that's not dependent on only me. Like, I can say, like, what's my individual act of freedom? But ultimately, the thing that supports that best is the relationships that I have, or the collective care experiences in the world, in my world, and in the world in general, the ways in which we come together to think positively about and on our lives. And again, hoping that this doesn't reflect like that toxic positivity, because that's not, again, the spirit of what I'm thinking about. But what can it look like for daily acts of freedom to occur in relationship to, with, and in support of each other? And that's when I think about how my life could benefit from experiencing transformative energy, that's it. If And I think I do a pretty good job of this. I have some really dope friends in my world, and I've been more and more intentional about who I seek and who I create and share energy with. And that's the game changer, y'all. Like that's what's doing it for me. Learning that there's only so much that I can do, but I can do things, but there's only so much that I can do. And it matters how I see other people in it. And those other people aren't always people who are in proximity to me, or even honestly people that I actually know. I have a lot of appreciation for ancestors, like ones that I've met, ones that I've only heard about, for um, the friends of my mind, the Toni Morrisons, the Zora Neale Hurstons, um, whose lessons and influence like just continue to rock my world, and help me think about uh, things that I want to do on a day to day, and how I want to share that with folks. And so I think about like what collective care for me looks like, and who are the players in that, and not just that, but what does that look like as an exchange? So not just me receiving, and I think that's important, but how do I also give and share and um, create collective care around me? And that's something that I've just been thinking with a lot of intention about. And when I think about how I might benefit from this, I know that when I allow myself to be cared for and even taken care of, that I have a lot more space to be caring. I have a lot more space to be loving, and I have a lot less space to be raggedy. And that's what I'm needing these days, because it's not difficult for me to run myself into a wall. It's not difficult to me when I'm at my most people pleasing self. And that people can be anything. That could be work, that could be family, that could be relationship, friendships. When I'm at my most people pleasing self, my self-care, or my care of myself, not to get conflated with how people are recognizing self-care, but my care of myself kind of goes out the window. And that also doesn't allow me to be strong in community with others. So anyway, this is in some ways a lot to think about. And I just wanted to offer some of how I'm thinking about it, not to tell you to think about it that way, but to give you a sense of where it's working for me. And a lot of this is informed by my mom used to always say growing up, if we said we were going to do something, or it was Mommy, I promise I'm going to do blank, blank, blank. She would always say, I'm from Missouri. She's not from Missouri. She's from Cleveland, Ohio. But she would always say, I'm from Missouri. And from a young age, we learned that, Missouri, the nickname for Missouri is the show me state. And she was big on the show, don't tell. Like you can talk about what you're going to do, and yeah, we'll see, you probably won't. So don't tell me about it, just do it. And when I think of that, like I think of how many times I found myself saying, I don't want to be raggedy. I don't want to, center work. And I'm just telling. And now in my life, I'm like, how can I create the conditions in my world that allow me to just show, that allow me to rest, that allow me to be thoughtful and intentional about who I share time and space within, and that I'm seeking learning experiences and opportunities, and that I recognize how much I can learn from anyone. Like, it doesn't mean like there's not a certain person or a certain degree that I can learn from, but there's a lot of wisdom everywhere. And how can I hear through my biases? How can I hear through my assumptions and preconceived notions and expectations? That's it for me. Like, that's how I know how I might benefit from shifting, changing, or experiencing transformative energy, because I know that I'll be more open. I know that I'll be more rested. I know that I'll be more caring. I know that I will allow care and love to literally wrap me in its arms so that uh, this sustains for me. I just held myself a little longer than I was used to, and I kind of like that. So wondering what this looks like for any of you. And I'm happy to offer something that can happen. Take what's useful, leave the rest. If that's all of it, just leave it. But if there's anything useful in it, I hope that you join me in thinking about this week.